Hello.
Hello. Guess what? We're together.
We're together. Those watching on YouTube can see we're together. Those listening, we're together.
Doesn't happen very often anymore, but
Welcome to Killer Hangover. I am Beth.
and I'm Bettina.
And this is episode 134.
Okay.
We're on top of things. We are ready. Not really. I literally just got back from a doctor's appointment, and then it's like, put the kid down, get downstairs, let's start recording. It's just kind of bing, bang, bouncing.
Bing, bang, bouncing. Okay.
Made sense in my head. I have the true crime this week. Mom has the paranormal and the beverage.
I do.
One of these days, very soon, we will be drinking our beverages together.
Yes. Okay.
We're covering the state of Wisconsin. Okay, it's all coming back to me.
Okay.
What we're doing. What we're doing.
Yes, we're recording.
Oh boy. It's going to throw me that we're together because I want to turn and talk to you, but yet I'm sure they don't want to just see the
side of your face
profile the whole time. And then finding a place to set up has been fun in my little office here. So
hey, it works.
It does. How's your week been?
Crazy busy, but in a good way.
Yeah. Busy is better than not busy.
Bored?
Yeah. I think so.
A little over busy right now, but that's okay. I mean, my house is a mess. I don't have time sometimes to even go to the bathroom, excuse me, but let alone clean my house.
It is the bathroom?
No, honestly. So
what do you do?
Hold it. Well, I'm not wearing any adult diapers.
You're asking for a bladder infection, woman. Go to the bathroom if you have to go to the bathroom. Do I need to pause this? Do you need to go right now? Are you that busy?
Oh, I do.
No. Oh, God. This is not an ad for adult diapers.
But it could be.
Okay. Well, busy's good. Busy's good. We've been really busy too. Not just because of the new baby coming and getting everything ready, but whose brilliant idea was it to have two kids' birthdays that are 2 weeks apart?
I don't think you had much to do with that.
That's hard.
You birthed them, but I didn't think you planned that way.
No, so. That's really hard. We had a 5-year-old, and then 2 weeks later we have a 7-year-old. And so it's just parties at school, parties with friends, parties with families, cake.
And Valentine's in the middle of that.
Yeah, we've had so much cake.
And there's still some left over.
So much cake. I ordered the second birthday's cake. And my husband goes, well, what are you going to do with the first cake that's still sitting here on the counter? And I was like, well, I'm going to wait for them to go to school. And then I think I'm going to have to toss it because
it's just too much
cake. Thank God they like different kinds of cake. That is, the one had like a strawberry swirl cake.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got a marble chocolate cake. So we've had lots of cake.
All right.
Anyway, Mom, what are you drinking for the Wisconsin episode?
Well, this is going to be fun because I can hold my glass.
Would you like me to hold it for you and showcase it?
No, it might be too tempting.
Not really. It looks like old-fashioned.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of ice, but I did put some in here, so we melted.
I took too long to set up. Sorry.
We're using the glasses that Missy gave us. Well, I'm using the glass that Missy gave us. So anyway.
No, now you guys can see it. Look how cool it is with the bullet in it.
It's a bullet.
The camera's up there.
But it doesn't matter that it's hard to see
the
bullet. Once I drink it, we'll show you the bullet.
Chug it. Chug it.
Oh, anyway, this is called a Summerwind cocktail. Now, I have to tell you, I chose the name for a reason, you'll see, but there are so many different kinds. I mean, there is a
done this cocktail. Why does that name sound familiar? Anyway,
I don't think
go
so.
on, Mom.
There's like a rum one. There's a tequila one. There's I mean, they're all different. And some of them have a lot of stuff in them. And since I was traveling to get to you, I thought the easiest, the better. So this one, I'm turning to a real bourbon whiskey
You are.
person. I love this stuff. Anyway, well, that made me sound like an alcoholic, but I do enjoy an old fashioned very much. And this is kind of, but it's even easier. So you have to muddle the orange, and I obviously didn't muddle it very well because it floated up, but you take the orange skin and muddle it. And may I advise the orange to be room temperature rather than cold?
Uh-oh, yours is cold.
I know. So it's hard to muddle it, and you muddle it to release the oils that are in the skin.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of hard when it's cold.
That makes sense.
Doesn't it, though?
Sorry.
It's my fault.
She
Okay.
gave me the orange for a snack for the kids, but said, but I need the peel.
I need one little sliver of the
So
peel.
I put it in the fridge.
But 1 ounce of Maker's Mark. I love Maker's Mark, but I didn't have that on hand. So
I do.
Well, I didn't see it.
Oh, I did. Somebody must have drank it. I did.
So 1 ounce of Maker's Mark, a half an ounce of orange liqueur, an orange wedge. There you go. And then fill the rest with ginger ale. No, and I use diet ginger ale. So then muddle the orange wedge in the bottom of the glass. Make sure it's room temperature. Add some ice. Add the Makers and orange liqueur and fill with ginger ale. Easy. Really easy.
Is it good?
Yeah, it actually is delicious. So.
All right. Well,
It's very good.
you're drinking because I want to see the bullet.
Oh, well, this is really easy to drink because it has, 1 ounce and then a half an ounce. So 1.5 ounces of alcohol doesn't really fill much of the glass. So there's a lot of ginger ale in here. So it's easy to drink.
I'm not sure I understand. You wouldn't because you don't drink.
Okay, one more. Okay. Now, do you see the bullet?
Oh, shit. I need to drink it down for the bullet.
It goes through the glass. Well, I might forget if it's like 5 minutes from now.
You all right? You good?
I'm good.
Okay. I really wasn't expecting
I'm good.
you to drink all of that fast.
It was just, it's like I said, it's super easy to drink because of all the ginger ale.
Okay. Well, you might want to hold that drink for my story.
Why?
You might want your cocktail for my story.
Oh, so I shouldn't have guzzled it because.
Or continue guzzling it. I don't know.
All right. Drink in hand, microphone in the other hand. I'm
Okay.
ready.
Look, I have a little table here for my notes.
Hey, can I put my glass on top of there too?
Oh, wow. Belly's getting really big. Okay. Yes. First of all, I wanted to start. I was looking at my notes over here. Yes. First of all, I wanted to start with, yes, we're on YouTube. Yes. If you're watching on YouTube, you see that we're on YouTube. If you're listening, hey, reminder, we're on YouTube. But if you're watching YouTube, wow. Do us a favor and like and subscribe. They already turned us off now. Sorry.
Thank you.
Follow, like, subscribe. We really appreciate it. Just kind of, you know the deal. Even if you listen on podcasts and you haven't yet, if you would leave us a nice review and some stars, that'd be lovely.
Yep. It just pushes us up to the top of the ranks. We got a long way to go to get to the top.
Well, it's just nice. It's just nice to see. Sometimes when you're doing work like this, like a podcast like this,
you need a little positive reinforcement.
Yeah, but I feel like, I talked to you about it and I talked to my husband about it, but here I am talking to a screen right now. I don't see a reaction. I don't hear a reaction. So I kind of, I don't know. If there's something you want us to work on, like that one commenter that said I said really too much.
But that was great.
But I want to know.
Right.
So,
right.
More positive than negative, preferably, on my self-esteem. But it helps. It helps.
Even the criticism does. So we're
even those nice comments we've been getting, we really appreciate it. So
yep. Oh, before I forget, and before you start, we have over 101,000 listens.
No, we have like 110 now.
Wow, it climbed.
Downloads.
Wow.
We're going to move on. But if you would do us a favor and just follow and like and subscribe, we appreciate you.
Thank you.
I think he keeps logging me out. I have to keep logging in. Okay. So enough of that.
Chit chat.
Before I jump into this case, I need to warn you of its very graphic nature.
Oh, better warn our listeners.
I did. That's what I'm doing right now.
Oh.
Oh boy.
We can get through this.
Put the drink down.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a heads up. It's really yucky. It gets really yucky. So if you need to bow out of true crime and fast forward to Mom's Paranormal, you take care of you. You do what you need to do. Mom, you're stuck here.
Not really. I could get up, but you've got me blocked in, so I guess not.
No, you are physically stuck here. You have me to get by and 2 sleeping dogs. Whew. Okay. We chose to cover stories from Wisconsin, and I chose to cover Ed Gein.
Oh, I should have guessed that.
I know. I thought you would. Wisconsin, graphic. But
moving on.
I'm about to have a baby, and we're going to try not to skip any weeks for like a maternity leave. But I wanted to tackle a big one before.
This is a big one. All right.
Okay. Researching this guy, and I hate to say this, and I know it's probably a very unpopular opinion. I'm probably going to get some flack. I just asked everybody to leave comments, maybe not on this episode. I feel really bad for him.
What? You better have something to back that up.
I feel horrible for this man. I really do. I think he had all the cards stacked against him, and he had nobody to lean on, didn't know right from wrong situation. Like, honestly.
All right. Well, we're listening.
I do not justify what he did. That does not justify that. I'm not saying what he did was not disgusting and very disturbing. It was wrong. It was wrong. Internets, it was wrong. But it's just so sad. And I'll let you form your opinion. We can chat about it. Okay, here's the story of Edward Theodore Gein, also called the Butcher of Plainfield. Edward was born August 27th, 1906 in La Crosse, Wisconsin. His father, George, didn't necessarily work. He had odd jobs here and there. He worked as a carpenter, a tanner, a farmer. But according to all of my resources, he was literally described as an abusive alcoholic.
Oh, no.
He was scrutinized and basically referred to as useless by Ed's mother, Augusta. Now, you've seen the movie Psycho.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. That relationship, that woman in that movie is so similar to Augusta. And I know that whole story was based around Ed Gein.
Psycho was?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
So it's pretty accurate. Augusta, I know that movie was very Hollywooded up, as we say.
Mm-hmm.
But Augusta was just She was a fanatically religious, very domineering woman. Everything was done her way, period. And all else was evil and vile. And she was, okay, she was just a tough cookie.
Okay.
Can't even call her a cookie because there's no sweetness to her.
No sweet.
There was no sweetness to this woman. She supported her family with a grocery store business. She was a grocer.
A grocer. Oh no. We're going back.
I thought you'd get a little kick out of that one. A grocer. I don't remember what episode that was. We had an argument on the podcast about a grocery store.
Grocery store.
Here we go again. Dang it locked me out.
You're not moving fast enough, girl.
Sorry. Okay, Ed had an older brother, Henry. He was, I believe, 5 years older than Ed. And the two boys were taught, and I don't know if taught was the right word. It was drilled into their heads at a young age that women and sex and all acts of sex were evil.
Oh, okay.
Their man parts were evil.
No procreation there.
No. They like, I think I get to it, maybe I don't, but at the age of 21 she made them vow that they were going to stay virgins. She caught Ed or Henry masturbating, in the bathtub when they were in their teen years. She ripped them out of the bathtub by their man parts. Like, she was the most dumb.
What was she doing walking in the bathroom when they were teenagers?
Well, I don't know, Mom.
How did she bear 2 children?
With somebody she hated, too. She didn't talk anything nice about George.
Okay.
Okay, went on that tangent. Let's see. Yeah, their father was worthless if they did everything her way. She was very successful in her grocery store. But she was disgusted with the growth of the city they lived in, La Crosse. So, it was becoming a very immoral city filled with sinners. So in 1914, when Ed was 8 years old, she moved their family to Plainfield, Wisconsin, to a 195-acre farm where their closest neighbor was like a mile away.
Wow, she wanted to make sure.
Ed and Henry began school at this really small one-room school building with 12 students. Ed was okay with schooling, but one thing he excelled in and enjoyed doing was reading.
Oh,
he really loved to read. But school was really hard for the Gein boys. For Ed, it was difficult because he was born with a growth over his left eyelid, which caused him to have a lazy eye.
Mm-hmm.
And he also had a lesion on his tongue that caused him to speak a little odd.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the bullying aspect of things.
Yeah.
And then you have this crazy mother at home who literally refused them to have any friends, which I feel so bad for them. See where you feel bad for their children at this point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. He would come home crying from kids making fun of him, and his alcoholic father would repeatedly beat him in the head till his ears started ringing.
Oh, gosh.
So I already talked about just the mother did not want them making any friends because they're all sinners. They're all sinners except for these boys. As both the boys grew, she instilled in them that they were destined to be failures just like their father. At the age of 14, Ed graduated from the 8th grade, and that was the end of his schooling. He didn't do any more schooling, although he still remained an avid reader.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And his subjects, as he grew up, became kind of your favorite subjects, Mom. He loved to read about the bizarrities.
Yes. Oh, that's the only thing we have in common.
He loved studying different cultures. And he'd hide these books from his mom. She would never have allowed any of this, but he loved anatomy and he loved reading about grave robbing, robbing,
robbering.
and shrunken heads really fascinated him.
Okay. How do heads shrink?
Like, well, he figured it out. Let's just say
are you going
that.
to tell us?
No.
Oh.
I do not go into the process of head shrinking on this episode. I'm sorry. We'll save that for a Patreon
I'm going to
exclusive.
have to look into that.
Sorry, patrons. Oh, it locked on me again.
You think? I mean, you have a skull. The skull doesn't shrink. I'm going to look into this.
Both Henry and Ed lived at home. And when Ed was around 30, 31, his father died. Well, no, not yet. He became a helpless invalid, according to resources. I'm using bunny ears there. I'm not calling him that. That's a horrible thing to call anybody. But he was completely dependent on his family.
Oh,
so
geez.
Ed and Henry, they started getting odd jobs around town. They would, farm, work as handymen around town. But Ed also worked as a babysitter.
Oh, all right. At 31?
Yeah, at 30, 31.
Okay.
So, yes, that does sound creepy, but take a step back. Let's think with our soft hearts here. Think of how he had spent his entire life. He was never allowed to have friends. So I really don't believe, and many resources don't claim it was anything sinister about him hanging out with these children, but he could, and he's the butcher of Plainfield. I get it. But I think it's innocent at this point. He was innocent. He's just connecting with these kids. He can play with these kids' imagination with these kids. And
I'm sure he's kind of socially awkward, and so he can relate with children better than adults.
My exact next sentence is he can really relate with these children.
I didn't see that. I just thought that.
And at this time, both Ed and Henry were considered trustworthy and reliable young men.
Okay.
1940, he's 34 years old, and this is when Ed's father passes away. Augusta obviously claimed his death was because he was weak. Ed and Henry continued their odd jobs around town to support Augusta. Fast forward, Henry is 39 and Ed is 34. They're both still living at home, but Henry is dying to get out of his house.
Oh,
and he did not share the same worshiping relationship that Ed did of his mother. He started to really question his mother.
Oh.
And he would criticize his mother a lot and stand up to her and just like, this is not how the world works. There are different views, and this really shocked Ed. He couldn't believe, like, you're questioning mom.
Wow. So how did that work for Henry?
Well, in 1944, there was a fire that broke out on the Gein property, and Ed and Henry went out to try to stop the spread. It was then that Henry died. So Ed reported this to police, that there's a fire and I can't find Henry. Well, when the fire was put out, he led police straight to Henry's body.
Oh, how did that happen?
And when they found him, he's not burnt.
Oh.
So yes, you can die from smoke inhalation. I know, I understand that. But it was just a very mysterious situation. And he had some bruising to his head.
Mm.
So some theorize that this might have been Ed, sick of Henry standing up to Augusta or talking back to Augusta and stepping in.
Sick of the fights. And
maybe even Augusta made him do it.
Oh.
She did have that kind of control over Ed.
Mm-hmm.
Or literally it was an accident and he just knew this is the last place I saw him and it's just pure coincidence.
Right.
We can only speculate at this point. He's never said anything, and later on he will confess to the people that he kills. So I feel like he
Why
would,
not add Henry if he did it? Right.
unless he's hiding it for his mom. So I don't know.
Maybe mom killed him.
A few months after the loss of Henry, Augusta's health starts to decline. Ed lives and breathes for his mother. He stays by her side, like through everything. She starts to have like strokes. She has a couple strokes, and this eventually leads to her death in December of 1945. Ed, as you can imagine, took Augusta's death very hard. I almost said very again. I stopped myself. I'm learning. He actually boarded up his mother's bedroom and sitting room and preserved it in a museum-like state.
But not the body like Psycho did, right?
He preserved her bedroom and
yeah,
like a museum. His appearance, although he was pretty much usually found kind of disheveled, it got much.
He's probably very depressed.
Worse. Yes. He continued to live on the farm and did odd jobs here and there, but people said he just was aloof and he really kind of started to smell because he's not taking care of himself at all.
He was aloof and didn't use a loofah or whatever.
That was actually pretty good.
I know, right?
Oh, Mom. I will make sure Mom posts some photos I found in my research on our website, killerhangoverpodcast.com. It's nothing gruesome. I wouldn't ask for you to post that. But it shows how this man was living. The house was a total mess. And as things got harder for him, he would just board off that room. So I think towards the end, he only lived in like the living room, a quarter of the bedroom, and the kitchen. And even that was like hoarder-esque, very dirty.
Oh.
But then what the pictures I want you to post is that the area that was his mother's, her sitting room, so clean,
pristine. Okay.
Yeah. So it's so fascinating. And this kind of shows you too of I think a mental disorder. I mean, I don't think I know.
Decline, right?
Yeah. And I think he was probably born with one, never got help. And then he has all this abuse and this stuff getting just drilled into his head about certain things. Do you see where I kind of feel bad for him because
he's lost? Without his mother, he has.
But even with his mother, he was lost. If you think about it.
No, I know, but
she's feeling all these horrible things
in his mind now. Though
now he has nothing.
Right.
He doesn't know how to live or care for himself,
or even think, because she basically thought for them.
Yeah. So you see where I feel like, and there's nobody he can depend on. His friends were children. You can't. That's where I just feel so sad for him. Again, this is not make up for what happens here soon, but it's just so sad because I don't see there's no light in his tunnel. I don't know how to describe it, but it's sad. Okay, let's see. 2 years after his mother's death, Ed is intensely lonely, which he later said led him to strange visions. And this is when he starts visiting the cemetery where his mom is buried, just to visit with his mom. She's driving me crazy with snoring. Not Mom. Mom's diligently listening. My dog is just, Annie. Holy cow, is she a snorer? Usually we kick her out when we're recording, and this is why. Sorry. So there's nothing abnormal about him visiting his mom in the cemetery. No. We all visit our family, relatives. His mother was his entire life, so this is not abnormal. He starts going to visit her time and time again until one day, and this is where it gets gruesome. I'm sorry. He decided to dig her up. He said he reached in and twisted her head off with his bare hands. He took the head home with him and he shrunk it.
And I'll let you know in some podcasts later how he did that.
Well, he had been reading about it for years. He was so fascinated by head shrinkage and how these different cultures were doing that. And he shrunk his mother's head.
All right.
After that, for the next 4 years, from 47 to 51, he began taking many evening visits to surrounding cemeteries, as many as 40. Most of the time, he left without doing anything. He would just
Hang out at the
go and
cemetery.
hang out at the cemetery. But on at least 9 occasions, he dug up middle-aged women. So he would read about them in the obituaries first, or maybe see a photo of them in the paper, and then he would go and unbury them. He'd take what he wanted from the body. So he's not taking the entire body. Maybe he just takes an arm or her head or.
Okay, this guy has got to be really strong.
Well,
I mean, he's digging 6 feet
mhm.
under, and then those casket lids aren't light. They're pretty heavy. So he's hoisting that up. And then, I mean, the head's still connected to the body. The thigh bone's connected to the knee bone.
I know. I started singing that too.
So he would have to twist it off. I mean, that takes strength.
That's the first thing you thought about?
Mm-hmm. Bizarre.
Who cares? He's digging up dead bodies. Wow, he's strong.
He's got to be strong. I'm thinking about the steps of digging up a body and taking part of somebody home.
But then he would return the grave to look as if nobody was there. So nobody even knew that these parts were being dug up or these women were being dug up. Nobody knew.
Wow, he's good.
Although he never had sex with any of these corpses because, quote, they smelt too bad.
Well, yeah, they're dead.
His compulsions still fall under the category of necrophilia.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now, some resources claimed he did have sex with the corpses. And I mean, some say, I think, again, just to make it a scarier story,
Because
maybe.
that's really what I've always heard.
Yeah, he didn't.
Oh, okay.
Why it falls under necrophilia though is because he admitted to, I think, masturbating 2 or 3 times. Like it still was arousing him in some way to dig up these bodies. Yeah. But no, he never had sex with the corpses.
Okay.
Remember, he's reaching in and only grabbing certain parts too. He's not.
Well, we won't go into that.
Yeah. Okay. All of these women that he was digging up resembled his mother in some way. And he said it was kind of, he didn't, but it was kind of like a way of honoring her. It was like different things of these women reminded him of his mother. And it's like a closeness he could feel with her. If someone would have peeked into his window one evening, they might have seen him wearing the skins of some of these women, wearing them and walking around being Augusta.
That goes back to Silence of the Lambs then.
Yep. Another movie that got its influence from Ed Gein. Think of the way he was raised. Again, just soften our hearts a little bit. Beaten and literally brainwashed into these beliefs and strictness. He didn't know love, not the way you and I know love. And that was love to him. He didn't have friendship. He didn't know reality. And on top of that, he's suffering from, I think very clearly, he's suffering from a mental illness of some kind. So he really honestly didn't know any better. He's just trying to connect to her, to something. Again, that does not make this right by any means.
No.
But we can kind of, that's where I start to feel sad. In 1951, Ed started going to a bar in the area owned by a woman named Mary Hogan. He was captivated by Mary. She used foul language and was a woman that his mother would have called trashy. But she resembled his mother a great deal. And so similarities and yet the differences, he was just mesmerized by her. After 4 years of an obsession, 4 years.
Wow. Okay.
December 9th, 1954, Mary Hogan vanished. She disappeared. Police suspected foul play because of blood on the floor next to an empty bullet shell casing. Ed later revealed that he had been hanging out with her, drinking. He randomly drew a .22 caliber gun to her forehead and killed her.
Oh, geez.
But Ed went under the radar. Nobody suspected him of the disappearance of Mary Hogan at all. Police didn't gain attention on Ed until November of 1957, about 3 years after Mary Hogan's death. Ed was 51 years old. So there was a hardware store owner named Bernice Warden, and she went missing. Her son was a deputy.
Oh.
And when he checked the scene, he found the cash register was gone. There's blood on the floor and a .22 caliber rifle out of place at the hardware store. He also found a receipt for antifreeze made out to Eddie Gein.
Wow.
The
Plus, this
last
is his
sale.
mother, so he's not going to let it go.
No, and it's the last sale of the day. On November 17th, investigators go to Ed Gein's house. Keep in mind, the victim, Bernice's son, is with them. They enter through the shed, the summer kitchen. Bernice Warden's headless corpse was found hanging upside down with her ankles tied to the wooden crossbeams.
Oh, geez.
She was slit open, field dressed like a deer.
Mm-hmm.
There was so much blood on the scene. And I mean, there was, from where she was shot, there was a trail of blood to where a car had been parked. And then from Ed's car at his place, there's a trail of blood into the shed. I mean, he didn't even cover his steps.
Probably didn't even think to.
Okay, we'll get there. And the son is walking in on this too. That's just, it's horrible. Well, so from here, they're like, well, we should probably check the rest of his house. Again, warning. It's getting gruesome. Take your drink.
Grabbing it.
Mom, I'm sorry. Human skulls were on all of the posts of Ed's bed. They discovered a box of organs. Furniture made out of bone and skin. So, like, on a chair, how the seat cushion we sit on, he had taken the cushion out and then stretched skin where like leather would be. So it's not like this entire chair draped in skin. This is gruesome, yes, but it's not as gruesome as a lot of things have like made it out to be. Does that make sense? It's still gross, though. I'm not trying to diminish its grossness. There were masks made of different women's faces, but there was a mask of Mary Hogan, the bartender's face. And this was 3 years later, he had preserved it so well that when the police walked in, they knew right away that that's Mary Hogan.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did he have those displayed?
He had them just hanging on different things. I mean, he had them preserved and covered, and they found a belt made of human breasts and nipples, lamps and light switches with human body parts and skin, and bowls made of human skulls. Like I mentioned before, he had pieced together an entire skin suit from different parts of different women. He could wear it.
Oh, geez.
And he did wear it. And it was complete with a vest with breasts attached.
Holy smokes.
The following day, November 18th, he confessed to killing Mary and Bernice. A week-long search began on November 19th of the 195-acre property. Deputies found more bones buried in like a trench in Ed's farm. One skull had a gold tooth and was actually believed to be the skull of a man.
Oh, well, there's a change.
So I don't know if I just, and if I do, I don't know if I go into it later or not, but he doesn't necessarily remember, he's claimed, digging these bodies up. He will remember going to cemeteries to try to be near his mom or what have you, but then he says that he goes into this like trance-like state and he just doesn't necessarily remember. But yet he still made the steps to preserve these body parts and things. So but Mom, he's also not, I don't believe he was intelligent enough to use that as
an excuse.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like he doesn't remember doing any of this. He was curious about it. Clearly, he's curious about anatomy and head shrinkage and different cultures and stuff. So it's like, did he get all of this from the book and then self-consciously I don't know. I'm not a psychologist.
Subconsciously he's doing it?
Yeah. Sorry. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what I'm saying?
I don't know.
Because he's not intelligent enough to
say I forgot. I didn't know what I was doing.
No.
Did he have a lawyer?
Well, he does get a lawyer,
but he doesn't at this point.
No.
Okay.
He doesn't have somebody speaking in his ear.
Okay.
Speaking for him. And then in my research, they charged him with robbery so that they could bring him in. And first, understandably so, they wanted to check and determine his state of sanity.
Mm-hmm.
The psychologist and the psychiatrist who interviewed Ed asserted that he was schizophrenic and a sexual psychopath.
Oh.
So again, there's no lawyers involved here tweaking a story. These doctors got involved right away.
Right.
Which, I just wish he would have had help before all of this.
Yeah.
He explained memory deficits with doctors, claiming he remembered driving to the cemeteries, but while there, he would enter these trance-like states. Sometimes he wouldn't even remember driving to the cemeteries. He would just wake up there. Like I said, I kind of believe him, but yet I just don't know, because then there's the follow-through of actually skinning these corpses.
Mm-hmm.
And doctors found, quote, abnormally magnified attachment to his mother, unquote. Within a few weeks of being held by the hospital, the judge received notice from the hospital that Ed was undoubtedly insane and should be permanently committed to the hospital. So he wasn't even going to go through a trial. While this is all going on with the legal system, word of his house of horrors is getting out to the public, and it's this big, huge scene, and the city puts things up for auction.
Oh,
the farm, the land, and some items from the house, not the house itself or any of like the skinned items or anything like that.
Thank you for clarifying that.
No, but like they went through his garage, and if they found stuff in his garage, like a lawnmower or things like that, all of that's going to go up for auction. The town's in an uproar over this decision because they're like, why are we doing anything with this man's property? Like, why are we advertising this house of horrors? But a crowd of over 2,000 people arrive. And there's a picture of this. I need to share it with you so you can post it on our website. Over 2,000 people show up to this auction. So 2 items I just wanted to go over with you guys. But Ed Gein's maroon 1949 Ford sedan. He drove this.
Carried these bodies.
Exactly. To and from cemeteries and transported the 2 women he killed.
They've got to have blood in them.
I'm sure they did.
Ooh.
It did, I'm sure. There was 15 bidders on the car. The winning bid was for $760. I went to a carnival sideshow operator named Bunny. Bunny put mannequins in the car to represent Gein and Bernice and made an exhibit for the county fairs around the state that summer as Ed Gein's ghoul car, the car that hauled the dead from their graves. For 25 cents, you could go and see the car. At a Washington County fair in Slinger, Wisconsin, the sheriff shut it down. Said the exhibit didn't want it there, kicked him out, and no one has seen the car since. I mean, that's gross, right?
Yeah, it is disgusting.
Okay, so tell me what the difference is with this one. A cauldron. A woman purchased it and used it as a planter. Now, the Gein family had apparently used it for rabbits and hunting and things like that.
Mhm.
And then it was assumed Ed used it as well for bodies that he brought home.
Okay.
She purchased it though, and she used it as a flower planter for the body, and she planted flowers for the souls affected by Ed Gein. After her death, it sat in one of her children's garages. Later, a man named Hollis Brown, a family friend and an old neighbor to Ed, who helped the investigators with getting things out of the house at the time, he saw the cauldron sitting in this garage and freaked out. He recognized it. And this is what the couple's son said that Hollis said. You following me?
Yeah.
Okay. Hollis saw many terrible things. He told me upon entering the home, he saw a woman's breast as the doorbell. Inside, he saw a skin lampshade, a comforter blanket made from human skin, furniture made of skin and breast, bloody gut buckets, a change purse made from a woman's privates, a belt with nipples on it. When Hollis saw the cauldron in my parents' garage, he recognized it as the same black cauldron that he had seen Ed's parents use to render hog fat on the farm. He also recognized it as the same cauldron in one of the outbuilding sheds and remembered Ed's sinister use for it. He remembers the cauldron was covered in dry blood and guts next to 2 barrels and tubs of bloody human intestines. 50 years later, Hollis recognized the cauldron in my parents' garage and turned white as a ghost. I asked him, how does he know it was the same one covered in dry blood? He lifted his arm and said, the hair on my arm stands straight up every time he looks at it in my parents' garage. Eventually, okay, so end of quote. Okay. Eventually, they put this cauldron up for auction.
Jeez. Okay.
And Zach Bagans purchased it.
Well,
and now it's in
doesn't surprise
his
me.
museum.
Okay.
So where do you draw the line, though? How is Zach Bagans putting it in his museum any different than Bunny taking the car around?
It's
There's
not.
no difference.
There's no difference.
It's so disgusting to
You're
me.
still kind of making money off of this horrible
Kinda,
situation
he's
that
making money. He has an entire exhibit now.
you're making money off this horrible situation.
As curious as I am to go to this museum, I don't, kind of bothers me, that stuff.
Well, and he's got a lot of really gory, yucky
He's a lot of stuff that would not sit comfortably with me.
No.
Okay. In 1958, Gein's House of Horrors was destroyed by a fire, the origins of which remain unclear. A lot of townsfolk, I mean, police, nobody really even cared that the house caught fire.
Probably kind of happy it did.
I would assume so. After serving 10 years in the hospital, Ed Gein was all of a sudden deemed competent to stand trial, and proceedings began.
How did that happen? Medicine? Maybe drugs got him on track? I don't know.
November 7th, 1968, the trial started. Took 1 week. He was found guilty of first-degree murder of Bernice Warden. They didn't do a second trial for Mary because of court fees. They found him guilty, but they also found that on the day of the murder, he was not sane. Therefore, the court concluded that Ed was not guilty under the reason of insanity.
Okay.
So he's returned to the hospital. He's not like set loose by any means. He's returned to the hospital. He was 62 years old at this point. 6 years later, in 1974, Ed filed a petition to the judge that he was recovered and he was fully competent, and there was no reason he should be hospitalized any longer. I just feel so bad for him because he was finally probably getting the help he needed.
Right.
And in his mind, maybe he was competent, and maybe he really was. Maybe he, with help of medication and therapies and everything else, he'd already been in the hospital for what? Almost 20 years. He received a quick response from quick response. It took 4 months to get a response from the judge. A re-examination was given, but Ed's petition was rejected because it came back that he was not sane, and he was to remain in the hospital. July 26, 1984, at the age of 78, Ed died. He was senile and had suffered a long while with cancer. He died of respiratory failure. He was considered by many at the hospital to be a model patient, mild-mannered, and he'd always help with all the other patients and day-to-day stuff. And that was his life.
Well, finally, he belongs someplace, though.
I know, that's why
He wasn't alone anymore.
I hate that he's like trapped in a hospital, but at the same time, he's safest there, right?
Yeah, what else
Can you
was going to
imagine what would have
happen?
happened if he was released? All these
Right.
angry people or sick people that attack him, and then
Well, he wouldn't have been released, I don't think, but he would have been
even
sent to
but
prison.
even in prison,
and prison would have been terrible.
So it's just, you see what I mean, though? The whole story is just so sad. It's so sad. Inspired characters, you already named some of them. Psycho, Norman. Norman was, Texas Chainsaw Massacre with Leatherface, and Silence of the Lambs. Yeah. That's the story of Ed Gein.
Okay, don't take this wrong, but I thought he had killed more people.
I knew you would. I think most people do. He killed 2 people, 2 women. That doesn't make it right. That's too many.
No, but
too many. But
I thought he killed everybody that he skinned.
Nope. Now, dig in deeper, and you will get lost in a web of, like I mentioned, they found that skull with the gold tooth that's believed to be a man. There are some people that did go missing around the area that Ed was blamed for, but he never confessed to this. This was never brought to trial or anything like that. Anything that was ever publicized by local law enforcement was the 2 women. So you have this story that's been, we keep talking about the media getting involved and blowing them up out of proportion.
Hollywood getting involved.
But no, at this point, it was media getting involved and blowing this out of proportion that, oh, well, all these people went missing, then it has to be
him
because he's so sick in the head. And I'm not saying it wasn't him. Maybe he did black out and something happened. It looks like you're asleep, Mom.
Start snoring.
But yeah, he only killed 2.
That he admitted to, that we know. I mean,
but I feel like he would have admitted to more.
Probably.
Being in the hospital for as long as he was.
And the dude maybe just unburied the wrong person, and it was a guy, and he said, well, that was a lot of work. So,
well, we only know of the bodies and the skins that were found in the house. Maybe he did go in these trance-like states and go and unbury tons of bodies all the time, and then woke up and was like, oh my gosh, and I need to bury them, or brought maybe in the trance-like state.
There was bones were buried on the property too.
Yeah, in like a trench. That's where they found.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what a gruesome sight that all would have been. Horrible.
So yeah, I'm not making light of it. It's still gross, but it's not as horrendous as people. I don't know. It's pretty horrendous, I'll be honest.
Come on,
it's pretty
Beth.
Gross.
It's terrible. It's very horrendous. It's not as horrendous as it could be.
I just feel bad.
Oh, well. Kind of a warped sense of reality.
All right, Mom, what do you have for us?
I have for you to hold my mic.
Oh.
We don't have a table in front of us. So.
I have to hold your mic the whole time?
No.
Oh.
Oh my gosh. Oh. If you weren't pregnant, you would have.
No. Wouldn't have even then. I love you, Mom. Your mic is heavy.
I know it is.
Mine's nice and light.
I keep
Yours
changing.
is heavy.
I keep changing.
Like lifting weights over there.
Okay. My little episode.
Sorry, there's a deer outside. Got distracted.
Squirrel. West Bay Lake is in Vilas County, Wisconsin.
Okay.
Okay. The Chippewa people lived on the land before it was established in the 1800s. So this was definitely when I have to eat this thing. Gosh. The land surrounding the lake was covered in thick forest, a perfect environment for the Chippewa to hunt, fish, and live. Summerwind Mansion.
Why do you keep looking at me like I don't know this?
Summerwind Mansion goes along with the Summerwind cocktail.
Oh, I thought I should have known the mansion. Okay, yes, your cocktail.
Summerwind.
Well, I'm not drinking it, so it didn't like resonate with me. Sorry.
That's the cocktail. Also known as Lamont Mansion, was built in the early 1900s. It sat close to the West Bay Lake and began its day as a fishing lodge. So, very beautiful surroundings, just the forest, and then it opened up and you saw the lake. I mean, it's just beautiful. But then it went on sale, went on the market. Oh no. There's a lot of things happening right now with my iPad. In 1916, I know where that is.
Okay, I was gonna touch it for you.
In 1916, it was bought and renovated by Robert Peterson Lamont.
Okay.
The remodeling and revisions lasted for 2 years. It is not documented whether they were supernatural happenings during this renovation. Okay. So very well could have, but we don't know for sure. But things did start to happen once Lamont and his family moved into the mansion. The story goes that one evening, the family was finishing dinner and kind of having dessert and coffee. And all of a sudden, the cellar door, which was in the kitchen, opened. And this figure came up and started walking towards the family, thinking that it was an intruder, of course.
It was that clear?
Yeah, I guess. He grabs his pistol, he shoots twice. The figure disappears.
Oh, it disappeared?
It's
I thought it was
gone.
still gonna
It's gone.
stand there like,
and then
what?
there were 2 bullet holes in the door.
Still to this day.
Not to this day for a reason, but remember those 2 bullet holes.
Okay.
All right. Some sources say that Lamont and his family left the house that same evening.
Smart. Finally, a paranormal story that they experience something scary and they leave.
We're out of here. Never to return.
I mean, they just shelled out a ton of money to renovate this house. But you know all these stories where it's like, we witnessed all this haunting, but they keep sticking around?
They stick around. Yeah.
Like, he seems like a smart man, finally.
I don't even think they finished their dessert.
Okay, well, at least take that with you. Cake. Just cake constantly. Cake.
Cake. More cake.
More cake.
Okay. In the 1940s, the Lamonts sold the mansion to the Kiefers, who never lived there full time. So it was like a more a vacation place.
Okay.
You know,
nice
on the
little
lake.
summer home.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Interestingly, Mrs. Kiefer never stepped into the house.
Oh, she didn't like to fish, I guess.
No,
Or-
she
she didn't like
she
to go
felt
on
like
vacation.
there was something.
Oh, for sinister reasons.
Yeah.
She didn't like it.
Yeah, for senator.
Oh.
Yeah, for senator.
For senator reasons.
For
Got
sinister reasons.
political all of a sudden.
I mean, haven't you ever felt that?
Oh, yeah.
As like
Many times.
I remember one time that really sticks out in my head. Maybe I
Isn't it
told
with
you
the
this.
fire truck?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know this
And
story.
you were with me. You were just a little one and you were running around. But it was in Georgia and it was in an antique store. And we went with friends. You might have been in a stroller. And it was this really cool antique store, though. I mean, it was really large.
It had to be big if it fit a fire
It was
truck.
really large. And I didn't know about the fire truck, but the fire truck was in a room by itself, in kind of in between rooms. So you kind of had to go through it.
Yeah.
And I could not. I could not make myself go into that room.
Mm-mm.
It just, there was something so terrifying about that room. And I am not afraid of trucks, not afraid of, anything like that. But it was like an invisible wall almost.
I know the feeling. Yeah. It's a very weird, something bad's going to happen ish. Something happened.
It's almost
like not going in there.
gut wrenching.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sorry. And the other gals just went through with their babies and their strollers, and I just stood there. I can't get through.
I was trying to think if I've experienced that on paranormal investigations.
Mm-hmm.
But you're already like alert to those kind of situations,
Sure.
right? So I think I've only really ever felt that like on my day-to-day once when we were actually looking at houses to buy. And there was this old historical home in a historical neighborhood, because that's like always been my dream. And we went upstairs and there was they had transformed bippity boppity boo. They had reconstructed the upstairs to extra bedrooms and a bathroom.
Sure.
Wouldn't go up there. I couldn't go up there. And Alex went up because he was curious. He liked the house. He wanted to see it. And he said he even felt uncomfortable up there and there's a lot of dead flies. And he's like, it's just interesting that I wouldn't go up. I would not. Just walking up the staircase and I'm just like on the step, like, no.
Nope.
No. Something, I'm not going up there. I don't know why. It was a beautiful house. Everything was painted light. There was lots of sunlight. So it's not even like you're going into a dark area where your mind starts to go there. It just.
I know. Yeah. I know. I never saw the other side of that antique store.
Well, that stinks.
Could have probably found some really cool stuff. Oh, gosh. Darn fire engine.
It's weird they had a fire engine in there, though. Were they selling the fire engine?
No. Okay. What's there to scare people, I guess?
Just you, apparently, because everybody else was meandered right through.
It's anything. I go, I can't. Okay. I just can't. There's a wall. There's a wall. How the heck did you guys break through?
Oh, boy.
Okay. Now, why is it doing this?
Your pad is growing by itself. Why does it have the big black line on it?
And why is it pushed over? I can't read it. Me and these things just don't. Okay. I'm sorry. This is going to take just a minute because my pad is totally messed up right now.
We'll take a little break.
Okay. There. You're so good.
We're back.
All right. It said that Mrs. Kiefer, so back to the story. Remember the Kiefers?
Yes. She wouldn't step in the house.
She sold the Summerwind Mansion several times.
She sold it several times?
She sold it several times.
So she sold it and then bought it and then sold it and then bought it?
Well, I guess the people were like paying her like monthly because
rent?
they couldn't. No, she sold it to them, but they were paying her monthly, I guess. But anyway, they couldn't keep up the payments, or they just plain flat said, nope, not taking it. And they just moved because they had.
Suck. That's why you get a realtor, though. I mean, you don't.
So she sold it several times.
Wow.
And some of these people were just plain flat terrified.
So why'd they make an offer?
Because they didn't know.
Wait, they bought it, moved in?
Yeah.
Okay, well then it's their house. Then they should sell it. Why would she have to step back in?
Like I said, I think it was like they were paying her and then they didn't pay anymore. And so then it belonged to her again. I don't know. Didn't say anything about realtors. So
that sounds fishy about that story. I know I'm not the most logical one on this podcast, but that doesn't sound right to me. I feel like it'd go to the bank, not back to the. Well, they didn't want it, so it's yours again. I don't want it. Try to sell it again. Good luck.
The house was only lived in for a few months at a time.
They must have just been renting it from her.
So these
I don't know, logical explanation I can think of here.
Hell, nobody lasted for very long. So after Mrs. Kiefer passed, the house sat abandoned until the 1970s, when Arnold and Ginger Henshaw, along with their 6 children, moved into the mansion.
She had one last sale.
Well, she's dead. So
Yeah, that's why I made a joke.
Oh.
Moving on.
They began renovations as they lived in the house.
Okay.
And it wasn't long before the family started experiencing strange things. Disembodied voices were heard coming from empty rooms. I swear sometimes I hear voices. Have you ever like just this whispering kind of voices? I'm sorry, but I have in my
I have
house.
the mom ear where every time I get in the shower and start washing my hair, I think a baby's crying.
Maybe that's it. I don't know.
But I don't hear whispering, Mom. I think you need
think
to
I'm
go
going
get
crazy.
checked out. You start waking up at cemeteries. Really?
There's a problem.
No.
Doors, windows, and kitchen cabinets would open and close by themselves. One window in particular would rise and lower at all hours of the day and night. So
That's
these are
just annoying.
These aren't windows that open out. I mean, it's literally up and down. So that would be weird. Arnold finally nailed it shut.
Well, yeah. The dancing window would drive anybody
To
crazy.
heck with you. Shadow figures were often seen, as was the apparition of a woman floating back and forth behind the French doors that led off to the dining
This
room.
repetitive nature of the windows opening and closing and this woman just going back and forth.
The French doors, and she's like,
not even that funny. It's not even that funny.
but it is.
Just keeps blowing.
She doesn't go once and then disappear.
But these people are
She has
still
to make sure that they saw her.
okay. But listen to all these things, and these people are still living here. You see what I'm saying?
Now, some of this could have been exaggerated by the Henshaws, but they did document their experiences, and things went from bad to worse. Appliances would break down.
It's an old house.
And then would be working when a serviceman showed up. And that
happens all the time to me, though. Like, my disposal is not working. It's not working. The guy comes and he's like, it's fine.
That's what happens to cars a lot. You
and
take it in and it's like,
or a doctor. It always happens with my dang kids. They have a fever and a cough, and I make them that doctor's appointment to bring them in, and they're healthy as can be. On the way there, even they're just driving me crazy. Totally healthy.
Well, these appliances, I guess, were like your kids. One day, as Arnold walked to his car, it suddenly burst into flames.
He burst into flames?
No, his car burst. It burst into flames. He's not an it. It's unknown as to what or who caused the fire.
Oh.
Oh.
Well,
Well, you take one of these things and it's like, well, but you keep adding them up, and
that's true. That's
crazy. True. As I said, they were renovating the mansion. They hired workmen, but often the men just
are worried about bursting into flames.
No, they just wouldn't show up. They would call in sick or just not show up. That really happened. That happens all the time.
I don't know if that's paranormal or not. That's laziness.
Well, some said that they just weren't returning to Summerwind because of
they went missing
things that happened.
Oh,
no, they said that the story isn't that good.
Workers that worked on the mansion just vanished and never seen again.
The Henshaws began doing work on the house themselves. During one of their projects in their bedroom, the unthinkable happened.
Oh boy.
Don't try to think. The couple was painting the closet in their bedroom, and there was, I can picture this pretty cool closet. In the very back was a large drawer or cabinet that It was shoes for shoes.
Okay.
So they wanted to, well, he pulled out the drawer so he could paint. And then he looks in there, he goes, wow, there's a dark space behind this drawer. It isn't
I'm not,
flush
not yawning because you're boring.
because people haven't disappeared yet. So he's like,
sorry.
it's not against the wall. There's a space. And so he, they shined a flashlight, but it was a really tight space. And then he kind of shouldered himself in that drawer space. And he goes, oh, there's a dead animal or something in here.
Okay.
But is long since dead animal. That's what he thought it was. So neither him or his wife could wedge in there. So they waited for their children to come home from school. And they stuck little Mary with a flashlight. She crawled into the drawer and into that dark space. And then she
my children would look at me and be like, you're crazy.
I was like, hey, Mary, I got a job for you.
Never. My children would never.
It didn't take long before Mary screamed.
So she vanished too?
She had found a skull, still holding black hair, a brown arm, and part of a leg.
There was hair on its head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She's holding hair. You said it was holding hair. So I'm like,
that was a really bad vocab there. A brown arm and part of a leg. So she found
scary if the skeleton was sitting there holding hair. That would be terrifying.
Now, strangely, the Henshaws never contacted the police about these body parts.
Wrong.
In fact, from what I gathered, they just left the corpse where they found it and just never spoke of it again.
Well, because if you remove it, things could happen. But you found a dead human body, you should probably call police.
I wouldn't leave it there. So they just shoved that shoe drawer back in there.
And that poor little girl is never going to go into closets ever again.
Well, probably not.
She's traumatized for life. My kids would never.
Oh. Then things got really bad.
Okay.
Arnold, who loved to play the Hammond organ the family had moved into the mansion, began to play it more and more often. He used to play it just to relax.
Now he really needs to relax.
And
a dead body living in his walls.
But the family would enjoy listening to him. It was just beautiful music that he played. But that music changed. It became really fast and frenzied. And
I'm not a fan of organ music.
They were melodies that seemed to make no sense. And he just pounded on this organ. Arnold told his wife that the demons in his head demanded that he play.
This is when you move out. The other family was still so smart.
Yeah. His playing grew more relentless and fevered at night. So all night long, he would sit at this organ and just hammer away at it. It was so loud and crashing that Ginger and the children would huddle in a bedroom with the door closed, frightened and unable to sleep. Arnold had a mental breakdown and was sent away for treatment.
That's so sad and
Ginger
scary.
Attempted suicide. She did not. She and the children left Summerwind Mansion and moved in with her parents. All of this happened in a 6-month period.
Really?
Yes.
That's terrifying.
So it wasn't like they stayed there for years.
I made a movie on this. It sounds like Amityville.
It does.
Or The Conjuring or something.
Yep. So it just happened within a 6-month period from the time that they moved in to the time that they left. Arnold getting better was not to be. So he and Ginger were divorced. She married a man named George Olson, and life was once again restored, and it was good until Raymond Bobber, who is Ginger's father.
Okay.
He decides to buy the mansion, and he and his wife are going to turn it into a restaurant and an inn.
Oh boy.
I don't think that Ginger and Arnold really kind of kept a lot of this to themselves. In fact, they had never told anybody about the body or the body pieces, I guess.
The skeleton holding all the hair.
Yeah. So, I mean, this would have been a perfect place for, a restaurant and an inn because of where it was situated, by
Right.
the lake, amongst the trees. I mean, it would have been perfect. But Raymond knew the house well. Raymond, the father, knew that the house was, well, haunted, but neither Ginger or Arnold, as I said, had shared a lot of their experiences with anybody, including her parents. So while he was in there renovating and just walking around, he discovered it was haunted also by himself. I mean, because he would have conversations with Jonathan Carver.
A ghost?
A ghost.
Okay.
Jonathan Carver is an 18th century British explorer who was searching for the deed that was given to him by the Sioux people, granting him the rights to the northern third of Wisconsin.
Okay, so why was he in this house?
He had put the deed, okay, this is according to Raymond, okay? He had put the deed in a box and had hidden the box amongst the stones of the foundation of the building.
It's not even his house, but okay.
Okay.
He's probably one of the people that rented it for a month and then skedaddled.
No, it couldn't have been. He's 18th century.
Oh.
So
never mind.
Quite honestly, none of it makes sense historically. I mean, his like boom, 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 wrong, 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 wrong. Historically in timeline, it could not have happened. I mean, the house was built after Jonathan Carver died.
Yeah.
So no.
That's weird.
Yeah. And the whole third of Wisconsin thing, no, none of it is true. But Raymond did communicate with Carver through dreams and trances and the Ouija board.
Oh, he became obsessed if he's pulling out a Ouija board.
He even wrote a book titled The Carver
Carver Experience?
The Carver Effect.
Oh, no. Oh, boy.
Raymond and his wife, Maria, his son, Carl, as well as Ginger and her husband, George, spent a day just kind of exploring Summerwind. I can't believe she went back
with her new husband and is like,
and they're just exploring this place. George found the bedroom closet, which had the secret compartment, and began to pull on the shoe drawer.
and
So
Ginger's
her
like,
husband,
Dad, guess what? There's it's her husband. Sorry.
no, Ginger screamed and said, "Don't touch that! No, no, no." Remember, she'd never talked about this. She never told her new husband. She just has never talked about it. It was time to come clean now, though. So
more than just shoes in that closet.
Down into the kitchen they all trode. And
why?
Well, they're sad.
To have a talk?
Yeah, they had to sit around the kitchen table
Mm.
because she was going to come clean on this. She told everybody what happened about finding the body. The men go, dude, all right, let's go. So Carl and her husband and her father all ran upstairs.
And started pulling out all the drawers.
And started pulling on the drawers and stuff. I guess Carl was small because he could wedge himself
He's the size
into
of
there.
Mary. Okay.
There was nothing there. The body had gone. Where? I don't know.
Body had gone. She picked up her hair and left.
Don't know. Took that one arm and that one leg and the skull and just kind of.
The visual is fantastic.
One day, whilst Carl was at the house alone doing some work on the second floor of the house, he heard his name being called.
It was like you.
Was whispered. No, they never say my name. I hope they don't.
Mom? Hey, more sparkling.
Don't you need some? Okay. No one was in the house but him. Carl! Oh, Carl! As he ventured down the stairs to the first floor, he heard 2 gunshots. Yep. He ran into the kitchen, finding it smoky and filled with the smell of gunpowder. He searched the house.
Oh, yeah.
But no one was there. As he searched the kitchen, he discovered 2 old bullet holes in the cellar door.
Interesting. Very, very interesting.
Raymond and Maria's idea of a restaurant and an inn was slowly fading. They couldn't keep workmen. Workmen would complain about feeling watched and complained that their tools kept disappearing. Maria herself was feeling very uncomfortable in the house. She told people that she felt like she was being followed wherever she was.
Well, I would be uncomfortable if, like, my daughter sits us down for the serious conversation and says, "There's a skeleton back there." And then we go and we look and there's no skeleton. Either there's something wrong with my daughter.
Yeah.
Or
there's something wrong with the skeleton. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The following is like the oddest thing, according to Raymond. Okay. Try to wrap your mind around this. According to Raymond, the house would shrink and expand.
Like it's breathing?
Well, let me kind of explain to you. I mean, this is so bizarre. He would measure a room one day, and the next measurement, and the next day, the measurements would be totally different. Like not only by an inch or so, we're talking extremely different. For instance, he measured the room where he wanted to set as a restaurant.
Okay.
And he thought, oh, easily I could fit 150 people in here by his measurements. And then he would measure it again. No, then he would lay his plans on the blueprints. Okay, so he had blueprints of the house. He measured, 150 people very comfortably in this house. But then he'd lay it on
microphone.
Then he laid it on top of the blueprints.
And it wouldn't fit?
No, he could only fit like 75.
It sounds like that show on Netflix, House on the Haunted Hill or whatever it's called. House on the
Haunted Hill House?
Haunted Hill House. There's too many haunted houses on hills.
Okay. Photos also reflected the size change.
How? Okay. Leaving me on a cliffhanger here, Mom.
As well as oddities. Okay. He had pictures that Ginger took of the living room while she lived in the mansion. Her pictures showed curtains on the windows, curtains which she took down and took with her when they moved out of the house.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Although the curtains were not on the windows when Raymond took his own pictures of the living room, his pictures showed curtains on the windows.
That's weird.
So it's almost like a residual type of energy that's going on in the house. Like it's
kind of cool.
It's going back into time and then forward.
And then back in time where it didn't even exist, where some Jonathan guy is showing up, and then forward.
I mean, it's like,
are you going to have a twist that was Ginger in the closet dead?
No.
The foreseeable future?
No.
She found her own skeleton? It's Mary?
No, it's Carver. That never existed in the house.
Anyway, go on.
So it's almost like time was distorted.
Yeah.
In this house.
So weird.
I mean, it's really hard to wrap your mind around.
Why?
Okay, as you know, I'm a skeptic. Was Summerwind really haunted, or did Raymond come up with this stuff to stir up more interest if he had a haunted restaurant and inn?
He didn't open it, so
I know.
So, I mean, the story would make sense if he ended up opening it and then shared this fun stuff, but he didn't even open it.
Well, he didn't get to it. Ghost hunters and curious people came to investigate the mansion, tramping through the old, abandoned, deteriorating house until June 19th, 1988, a really bad storm came through the area, and the Summerwind Mansion was struck not once, but several times by lightning and burned to the ground.
Oh, it's kind of sad.
At first, it was thought that maybe the townspeople did it, to keep people from going,
yeah,
into the house and stuff.
Yeah.
But it was ruled as not
a lightning strike.
and not arson. All that remains are it's weird.
The stone foundation where Jonathan's stuff is hidden?
Not. But the stone foundation is all that remains is this beautiful, actually, stone foundation and 2 stone chimneys.
Wow.
Like from fireplaces. But if you look at it, it's eerie, but it's beautiful at the same time. Because
that's how they suck you in.
I mean, this guy was videoing it there during the winter.
Mm-hmm.
So the snow was laying all around and it was so quiet and it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. And now, it's that was 1988. So the trees now are basically the only inhabitants. They not only are around, but some are growing through
the where the house was.
Yes. So as I was going to end with, the trees are now the only residents of the place, or are they? Now this is,
this sounds so fake. It sounds like a Hollywood movie. Like,
we run into this all the time, but according to every site I was on, this is the most haunted place in Wisconsin.
I've never heard of it.
And even now they have, if you go out there, I guess there's a lot of orbs and there's a lot of strange lights.
Oof.
So
do they have pictures of the house?
Like before online? And after?
Yeah.
I'll post them.
I'd be curious to see what that house used to look like.
For the most part,
Spooky.
It's like when it sat abandoned. Those are the most.
Sure.
So, but
I'd like to see the family pictures, though. That'd be kind of cool to see. I know I probably won't be able to.
I never
call up Ginger. Hey, Ginger, you want to send us those family pictures?
What's up?
How's Mary doing with their closet issue? I don't know.
There you go.
That was a good one, Mom.
Thank you. I thought it was kind of fun. Again, I'm the skeptic. I was like, what is true? What is not? But it's written that it's very, very haunted.
The online says it's true.
So it's got to be true.
Because what's on the internet is all true. But with that on our side, it is true. All the resources from this episode are going to be on our website. KillerHangoverPodcast.com. Mom also posts pictures, and we'll do that on our social media as well. We're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, la-di-da,
Instagram, blah, blah, blah. All those social media thingies.
So, like I asked you in the beginning, if you wouldn't mind liking, hopefully you did like us, subscribe and follow. That'd be great. Leave us a nice hello comment. Yeah, this was a good episode, Mom.
It was.
I don't have a drink to cheers you with.
Well, pretend.
So you can toast our what viewers.
What? What viewers?
I want to say watchers, but that sounds creepy. Toast the watchers. Oh, cheers, Mama.
Cheers. Love you, kid.